Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter, the unfiltered stories of addiction, of reinvention, and of overcoming the stuff that perhaps at one point in your life you didn't think you could. I want to talk today, as we are pretty much on the edge of a new year, about setting yourself up for success. Now, we all know New Year's resolutions are something that are a tradition that some of us absolutely buy into and some of us don't. Here's what we need to kind of recognize. For the majority of people, this kind of period of time at the end of each year, we all tend to have some time where our routines are a little bit different. Business tends to be a little bit quieter, and it gives us an opportunity to reflect, to look back on what we have achieved, what we wanted to achieve, where we feel we are within ourselves, within our health, and all that kind of stuff. And it just lends itself to being this time of year. Now, can we do this at any time of year? Yeah, of course we can. And the people who really are successful and who, when you look at them from the outside, you kind of think, well, they're the ones who always kind of do what they say they're going to do, and they always seem to be growing and achieving. And it's usually because they don't just do this kind of stuff once a year. They do it consistently and regularly. And what am I talking about? The thing that they do, reflecting back and being radically honest, brutally truthful, if you like, about how the last year has gone. Now, it could just be the last quarter, it could just be the last month if you want to do it that way. But as I say, this time of year tends to be the year where the time that we do look back. And the majority of us got a mobile phone. And one of the easiest ways of looking back is to just scroll through all of your pictures, because often we recall the things that didn't work out so well. We tend to forget all of the stuff that we actually did do, and the stuff that brought us joy, that made us laugh, that helped us to learn things about ourselves, about other people. So this is a really good thing to do. And I talked about it on my podcast last year, is to just go back through the photos of the whole year, to just remind yourself of all of the stuff that you have actually done. I don't know about you, but the older I get, the faster a year seems to go. And I don't necessarily remember everything that has happened. But when you look back at all the different events, you can kind of go, actually, do you know what? A lot has happened. So maybe it didn't go as quickly as my brain is telling me it did. Now, this podcast episode, I'm going to be talking a lot about brain. Why? Well, I've been posting this week about the opportunity is running out for people to grab my December offer on all of the three main core offers that I do offer. Now, for those of you who don't even know what I offer, I help people to work with their body and their brain so that they can feel and function at their best in business and in life. And what I really focus on helping them to do is to stop using food, alcohol, drugs, whether that's medication and prescription drugs or other kind of recreational type drugs or over-the-counter medications, shopping and gambling, basically when they turn into external stuff to be able to cope with life. When they know that they are repeating patterns that aren't serving them, and yet they've tried everything to get out of them. When they are feeling exhausted, but also anxious, wired and tired, and that they can't, are unable and not allowed to take time out for themselves and to actually recharge, because there's a lot of pressure to perform. There's a feeling of needing to be perfect, of supporting everybody, and often it's not just a feeling, it's a reality. The people that I help are usually business owners, founders, and professionals who have high standards for themselves, but also high expectations of others, and have come from a background where either that was the expectation of them or it was the opposite, and they've decided to put that pressure upon themselves. Now, if you fall into any of those categories, one of the most important things to recognize is that every single one of us has got a health history. Every single one of us has got a personal experience of life history. We all have not experienced the same things. We didn't come from the same background. We don't have the same cultures. We don't have the same belief systems. We don't have the same values. And a lot of our values, belief systems, patterns, and habits are inherited from our family, from our culture, from our ancestors. A lot of them are not our own. And a lot of them, as we've grown up, we have either chosen to continue because they work for us, or we unwittingly are continuing, not realizing they're not working for us because we've never actually taken the time out to look at them. And so this is an opportunity for you to look at some of this stuff. Now, I'm not going to go massively into detail, but what I do in my programs that help people is to get really honest about where exactly they are. What are the things that have worked for them? What hasn't worked for them? What do they feel that they cannot let go of? What are the shoulds they're telling themselves, the musts they ought tos? What are the pressures that they feel that they have to live up to, and so on and so forth? And so the awareness piece is crucial. And so what happens with everybody that works with me is we go through a set of questionnaires where I look at your brain function, your lifestyle, your experiences, i.e. the whole of your personal health and life timeline, your nutrition, your brain function, your beliefs and your values. And when we look at all of that stuff, we then spend a full day together, which is a VIP day. And we're literally together for between 6 and 8 hours. And we look at everything that's been uncovered by the questionnaires, the audit, if you like, on you, your life and your health. What needs to be the main focus of attention? And we come up with a framework that we devise together for you to be able to then implement. And I give you some tools that are very simple and fast. That's key to implement in the moment on that day. And for some people, that's sufficient. Now, for a lot of people, what they want is my support, my guidance, and my daily coaching in real time on the 30-day accelerator. So that is the second thing that I offer. And then the majority of people within that time frame will have basically eliminated, dealt with, let go of at least one or two of their main issues. And then they realize that actually this stuff works and they want to continue. And so we go on to my longer term program, which is Creating Mastery. And that can be anything between 6 months, 12 months, whatever time frame we feel is appropriate for the stuff that you want to be working on. Those are the 3 ways that I work. And so of all of those offers, they all start with the same way. You all do the questionnaires, you all do the audit, you all do the VIP day. There is no shortcutting it. You all do the initial 30 days. And then we take stock as to see whether you want to continue. That is it. It's simple. Right. And this is the thing that I really kind of want to home in on for pretty much everybody. Is that when we're looking at this stuff, simplicity is what creates consistency. If it's too hard, if it feels too challenging, if it's too time consuming, if it feels too complicated, your brain is going to reject it and it's going to look for something else that feels more comfortable, easier to do, more familiar, more safe. And that's not because you're lazy, that's how the brain works. Your brain will always try and do something that takes the shortest amount of time, that uses the least amount of energy, that causes the least amount of physical pain or emotional pain. Now, that's just how the brain works. And it's important that you know that, because a lot of people who don't know that will call themselves lazy or unfocused or flawed in some way. No, it's understanding. It's educating yourself on brain and how it works. And oftentimes we don't realize that we are putting too much on our plate. Now, I help with people with food, and I'm using this analogy on purpose. But think about it. If you go to, if you've ever been to one of these global buffets where there is a choice of foods from like all different countries around the world, and there's just a sea of food everywhere, and you decide that you're going to try everything. Well, what happens, right? You start eating some of it. Your tummy's not going to suddenly expand big enough to try every single food that you've got on your plate from every single country. It's just going to do that. There is a point where it just goes, enough. It's enough. I can't do anymore. And this is a little bit like how your brain works. Hands up, and I can't see you, but do it anyway. If you have got a load of tabs open on your computer and you are trying to focus, let's say, on writing an email, quite an important email, but you glance up and you can see these tabs open. This is what happens for a lot of us, is that your brain knows that these things are there in the background. And so as much as you're trying to focus on the one thing, and maybe you've been told, just focus on one thing, get it finished, get it completed, but your brain is aware that there's all these other things on your list of things that you had to do. We're leaving open tabs, and your brain does not like these open loops. So the majority of us think that we're being clever when we're trying to multitask. Actually, we're not. We're working against our brain. We need to have clarity. And this is the other thing that we need to be really kind of clear on, is that clarity creates speed. Now, there is a rule of 3. And this is just science. This is neuroscience of how your brain works. It can focus on 3 main things. Anything more than that, and it's going to struggle with. You are not going to be able to give it everything that you want to, your full attention, your full focus. Just do this as a little kind of experiment, if you like, to see what I mean. If just everybody, I hope, knows what a can of 7-Up looks like, right? If you can picture one of the fridges in a supermarket, perhaps, or a takeaway place with all of the cans of drinks in there, right? And just close your eyes for a moment and picture a can of 7-Up. You see it very clearly. You picture the logo, the colours, etc. Okay, now also I'm going to put next to that can of 7-Up a can of Coke, just a normal red can of Coke with the black writing, the original Coke. And for pretty much all of you, you can very clearly see both of those, right? No issues. Now let's add into that a can of Fanta. So the orange one. Yeah. So now you've got three things. You've got your can of 7-Up, you've got your Coke in the middle, you got your can of Fanta. Now, for the majority of us, you can still pretty much clearly see in detail those 3 cans in your mind. Now, let's add on a can of Dr. Pepper. Now, what is happening? What tends to happen is you either going to look at one of them, but in the background there's the other 3, or you're going to be able to focus on 2 of them, but you know that there's another 2 that you're not focusing on. In other words, 4 just pushes the limit of your focus, whereas 3, it felt okay, it felt doable, it felt comfortable. And that's pretty much how your brain works. If you've got too many goals, too many intentions, too many things that you are telling yourself are a priority, you are going to struggle when you add on more and more and more. And often what that means is we look back on the year, all of the things that we said we were going to do, and we recognize that we did achieve quite a lot. And if you do that experiment and you look through your pictures on your phone, you will look back and go, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I did do a lot. Some of the things that we achieved, we forget that we've done them. Then I want you to look at the things that you didn't achieve and you completely abandoned. Think about those things. So these are like having too many tabs open and your brain's just gone, no, I'm just going to have to completely eliminate, as far as my brain's concerned, some of these because there's too many. And then have a look at the ones that are still open. And maybe these are the ones that have been open for years. You keep making the same intention, keep setting the same goal, you keep telling yourself you're going to do this thing, and yet it doesn't happen. And so what I want you to do, or I'm inviting you to do, you don't have to do this, is to look at what is it that allowed you to achieve the goals that you did achieve. The stuff where you're looking back and you're going, yes, I did that, yes, right, and I'm so pleased. Think about how you felt. What were you saying to yourself in your head? What were your beliefs? What was it that you were thinking and feeling and taking action on that allowed you to actually achieve those things? And be honest, right? This is not about you bigging yourself up. This is just about going, okay, this is what I did and the outcome was this and it made me feel this. And then have a look at the things that you abandoned, the stuff that you said you were going to do that you believed were a priority, that you wanted to be a priority, but you ended up not doing. And do the same thing. Look at your beliefs. Look at the stories you were telling yourself in your head. Look at the things that stopped you, the feelings, the actions, maybe the comments from other people, maybe whatever it was. Get honest. What was it that made you abandon those things? And then look at the things that you still have open, that you're still going, you know, I'm still working on that. I'm still working towards it. And maybe you have been. Maybe a book is a good example. Maybe you've been writing a book for 2 years or 3 years. It's still open, it's ongoing, but you're not prioritizing it. Why? Well, look at what you're thinking about it, what you're feeling around it, what is the beliefs, what are the stories? Because once we understand what it is that helps us to achieve things and what it is that actually stops us from doing the stuff that we say we want to do, but actually we never get round to. And this is understanding how your brain works. And honestly, it boils down to usually just two things. One is, how much do I deserve to achieve this? Because if we don't believe that we deserve it, it's not going to be a priority. We will find ourselves sabotaging our ability to get there. And the second thing is, how capable do I believe that I am? Because if we don't believe that we're capable of doing it, it's too difficult. I don't know how. It will take too long. Other people are better at it than me, etc. If we're not capable, or we believe that we're not capable, and the stories therefore running in our head are that we're not capable, then you can see why you either will abandon a goal or it is still left open. Now, here's an interesting little thing to know. If you were to look at the goals that you did achieve and you were to give them a score of out of 10 of how deserving you felt to have that goal and a score of how capable you were, and then you multiply those two scores together, that's going to kind of give you a percentage of the likelihood of you achieving your goal. So what do I mean? Well, let's just say your goal was to write a book and you feel that you deserve to write a book and you're going to give yourself a 9 out of 10. And how capable did you feel that you were? You felt that you were a 9 out of 10. So you got 9 out of 10 for capable and deserving. And so 9 times 9 equals 81. 81%. So the chances are that you did actually achieve that goal. Now, conversely, if you just said, actually, no, I don't deserve to write a book, you give yourself a 2, and you do the same thing, I'm not actually capable of writing a book, and it's a 2, well, it's 2 times 2. 2 2s are 4%. So there's a 4% chance of you achieving that goal. And is it on your still open or abandoned list? So this stuff is not rocket science. And pretty much everything we do boils down to, do I believe I deserve it? And do I believe I'm capable of? Now, what we need to sort of take on board is that for a lot of people, it boils down to feeling safe. If we don't feel that we deserve something because it will make us feel unsafe, because it's unknown, because it's unfamiliar, then chances are we're not going to go for it. If we don't believe we're capable of it, again, because we are so used to not being able to achieve what we say we're going to achieve, and therefore that feels safe, then we're likely to just keep on repeating the same patterns. And it feels like we're sabotaging ourselves, but we're not. Because fear can be positive and fear can also be negative. Fear is a massive driver. So, for example, if we believe that we have absolutely no option but to do this thing, even though we're not sure we're capable of, chances are we will do it because we absolutely have to, because the cost of not doing it would just be devastating. That's when we recognize that actually we can utilize fear as a positive driver to do stuff. And what this often boils down to is how much are you prepared to tolerate? Because what we know is that we don't get what we want. We get what we are prepared to put up with. Yeah. And this is something that is quite a challenge for us to take on board, because it's not about you setting goals and raising your standards to try and achieve them. It's recognizing what is your capacity for tolerating, because if we could tolerate a lot of pain, emotional and physical, and we don't believe that we deserve anything different, and to have something different is going to feel unfamiliar and unknown, and therefore we will become a different person. If we're not in emotional and physical pain, who will we be? Then we will end up sabotaging our own efforts to get to the very goal that we say we want. And this is what happens with a lot of people. You know, a lot of us are givers, and for many of us, that was a way of helping us to feel worthy. It was a way of fueling our self-esteem, and we felt valuable. In other words, we felt deserving. But to be able to continue getting that feeling, it means we have to keep on giving and giving and giving. And therefore, to people like me, unless you've done the work, and I no longer feel like this, but a lot of my clients do when they first start working with me, is that we don't feel that we can take care of ourselves, because that would somehow be selfish. Because what we don't understand is that by helping ourselves to feel and function better, then we can actually show up as our better selves for everybody else. And, you know, a lot of people feel that self-care is selfish, that if we talk about our achievements, it's being braggy. Whereas actually, when we talk about what we've done and how we got there, it's inspiration for a lot of people, and it helps them to believe that, well, if you can do it, then maybe I can too. But we don't see it from that point of view, because we go inwards. And it's usually down to our upbringing, where we didn't feel safe, that we got the message that if we serve others, if we help others, it means that we can kind of stay under the radar, and we will be liked, and there will be no issues, and life will be fine and easy, and therefore it's secure. And whatever feels safe and secure when we're a kid, we often continue with into our adulthood, even though it can be the very thing that stops us from feeling fulfilled, that stops us from feeling that we are stepping into our purpose. It stops us from feeling that, I don't know, there's a lot of people I speak to who think, is this it? Is this, I just feel there's something more, but I can't put my finger on it. It's that. And what we've got to help ourselves to remember is, when you work with your brain and you understand why we do what we do, the feelings that come up when we tell ourselves certain stories, certain beliefs, when we replay certain events in our lives and have a little look and go, what was I saying to myself? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? And then what did I do? And then how did that make me feel? We can get some real clarity on just who we are currently being. And one of the things that is a kind of quite a nice little experiment to do is to just ask yourself, if I could, and forget kind of in a coachy way of picking areas like health, like finance, like business, and just forget all of that in terms of attention, intentions and goal setting and resolutions and all that. But just ask yourself, at the end of 2026, what do I want to look back on and go, those were the 3 core lessons. Those were the 3 core things that I found out about myself, that I did, that I enjoyed. What will be useful from 2026? And if you're not sure, ask yourself, well, what's useful from 2025? If somebody said to me, what are the 3 core things that you can take away from 2025? I would say, number 1 is that getting absolute clarity on what I help people to solve is number 1. Number 2, it's allowed me to be really clear on what I know I can handle in terms of physical and mental ability. And I was scared of working harder and doing more for fear of having another heart attack. But that was based upon not my story, but based upon somebody else's. So recognizing, and the last thing is that I am 100% responsible for my current situation, health-wise, finance-wise, business-wise. Nobody else is. It's 100% up to me. It's not the economy, it's not circumstances, it's not my past history. It's like where I am right now is 100% my responsibility. And that makes me feel excited for what is possible for the next year. Now, you can do the same thing. What are the 3 things that you have learned? And notice they weren't all like happy, clappy and positive. One of them was recognizing that I wasn't doing as much as I could because I was scared that if I did too much, I'd put myself under pressure. And then if I put myself under pressure, that would equal stress. That would equal another heart attack. That was a story. And thankfully, it took to the end of this year for me to recognize that that is what was going on. And this is why looking back on stuff and doing this reflection from a place of just being brutally truthful with yourself, because this is not for anybody else. You don't need to share it with anyone unless you want to. This is for you. It's about being brutally honest. Because why not? Because who are you kidding? You know the truth anyway. Whether you say it out loud, whether you write it down, you actually do know it. And a lot of us will have completely contradictory fears and thoughts going on in our heads. And that is absolutely normal. And this is often why we sabotage the very stuff that we say we want, because we've got two contradictory fears going on. And it's which fear is the most powerful. Because we all have fears. We're all human, right? A fear is just something that your brain will make you aware of that it sees as a threat that may end up in death. That is what a fear is. And all of us have a different I was going to say level of fear, but that's not it. We all have different experiences. And so what's fearful for me is just whatever my brain doesn't have experience of. In other words, whatever is unknown, whatever is unfamiliar, that is going to create a sense of fear, a sense of threat, a sense of the unknown. Unknown equals death, as far as your brain is concerned. Now, we know in reality that's not true, but it used to be when we were very new on this planet, thousands of years ago. And the brain hasn't caught up with technology. It still works in the way that it has always done. It has got two things and two things only that it really focuses on. One is stopping you from dying, and the other one is using as little energy to do that, which is why we're always going to take the path of least resistance, which is why we're always going to go for the easier option. But often the easier option ends up being the harder one. Often the easy route takes you twice as long and you encounter so many more obstacles than taking the harder route. And this is just your brain trying to keep you safe, because it thinks that if you feel fearful, you are under threat of death. And it is that simple. And let's not complicate it. But you have got 100% responsibility to educate yourself on this stuff and then to work with what you know you are doing, what you are feeling, what are the stories you are telling yourself, and get honest about the stuff that did work for you, that has worked for you and consistently continues to work for you, and the stuff that's not. Because if we set the same intentions and the same goals again and again, but we don't change who we are being, because we haven't looked at what is it that stopped me from doing this and achieving this last year and the year before and the year before that and the year before that, then nothing is going to be any different. And I can say this from experience, because I lost count of the years that I said, I want to stop drinking and stop binge eating. Every New Year's Eve, I would set that intention that would be it. I would not binge eat and throw up. And yet I did. That I would not drink to excess. And yet I did. That I would not smoke. And I did. that I would not work out to compensate like a lunatic for overeating and to just make sure that I was burning off more than I was intaking. Yet I still did and kept getting injured because of it. In other words, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Why? Because I was coming at it from the same mindset. And these things that I was trying to change were actually the solutions to what was actually going on a deeper level. But I didn't know that. Why? Because I hadn't done the work. And I certainly didn't know how my brain worked. And I had no clue about the gut-brain axis and how that was affected by the actions that I was taking, the food, the drink, the thoughts that I was thinking that affect my hormones, that affect gut function, and so forth. I had no clue of all of that connection back then. And this is why I'm going to suggest that if you do want to sit down over the next 2 or 3 days when you've got a little bit of space and look at what is it that you want this year, be honest, right? Don't make it complicated. I've seen so many masterclasses and workshops on setting your goals for 2026 being advertised. And I'm just going to suggest you keep it really simple. Right? If you can, forget, as I say, categorizing it into health, wealth, business, personal life, friendship, all of that stuff. Just go, by 2026, this time next year, at the end of next year, what 3 things can I take that will be useful? What 3 things, what 3 lessons, what will I have done or learned or achieved or experienced? Keep it that simple. And then be honest about all of the things that you might have been telling yourself you want to do, and look at them and go, right, in relation to these 3 things, are they helpful? Are they going to help towards it? Or are they going to be a distraction away from it? So let's say, take a book, for example. Let's say by the end of 2026, you want to have written a book. But you also want to create a new website, and you want to start a podcast, and you want to post more frequently on social media, and you want to do more speaking gigs. All of those things, are they going to get you closer to finishing your book? If the answer is no, and it should be, then those are not your priority. Now, does it mean that you can keep on doing this work throughout the year? Yes. Why? Because if you focus on 3 things, and there's a rule of 3 as far as the brain's concerned, you've done that little experiment of visualizing the cans of drink. 3 things is enough for you to be able to stay focused on without getting bored, without it feeling samey, without your brain keeping on looking for distractions. And then you will have like little micro goals that will help you to achieve those 3 things. And they can be personal, and they can all be fitness related. They could all be business related. They could all be family related. They don't have to be in different categories, but just be honest. Because when you set your intentions of what you want your brain to focus on, and then you can set the little micro goals of the things that you do every single day that will get you closer to those goals, you're then going to feel more in control, less stressed, less frustrated, less pulled in 10 million directions, less of all of those tabs being open where your brain just cannot focus, because it knows that, I know I'm supposed to be doing this one thing because everybody tells me I should just focus on one thing, but I can't because I've got all of these 25 tabs open on my screen. If all of the tabs you've got open are relating to the 3 goals, you're going to feel much calmer, much more in control, and much more capable of getting the stuff that you say you want. And the final thing I'm going to leave you with this is, it comes down to feeling deserving. It comes down to self-worth. If you don't feel that you are worthy, that you don't feel that you deserve, then all of this is pretty much going to be a waste of time, because you're not going to get the things that you say you want. Now, by working towards these things, can we help ourselves to feel along the journey more deserving? Yes, especially if we set these micro goals that will help us to achieve our bigger goals, and we celebrate them and we recognize them and we go, yes, I did that. I said I was going to do it and I've done it. And I've done it 5 days on the trot, 10 days on the trot, 20 days on the trot. And you recognize, actually, you know what? I'm feeling better. And I do deserve to feel good about myself. Why? Because I have put the effort in and therefore I am worth it. And so as you go along the process, your self-worth, your self-esteem kicks in. Now, it's a journey. Absolutely. It's a process. Day by day, step by step. Some days you're not going to feel like you have got anywhere near working towards your goals. Why? Because life throws us curveballs. It just does, right? And there may be that actually, you know, one out of those two, you realize actually that's a little bit too much of a big goal and it's making me feel overwhelmed and I'm going to shelve it for now. And maybe I'll revisit it when I look at this stuff in a year's time. Being sensible, but not too easy on yourself. If you've got stuff that you want to achieve and you have had it on your list for years, you can make the decision that either I'm going to let it go and stop putting it on my list because it's not going to happen, or you can choose to go, actually, I'm going to finally make that a priority and change my identity to ensure that I will do what I need to. And that means getting clear. What are the obstacles that have stopped you in the past? What are the things that you were telling yourself? The beliefs, the values, the stories, the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, and therefore the feelings that those actions created that stopped you from achieving. Once you've got clarity on that, you can then go, okay, so if that stuff is likely to come up this year, which it is, because you are you, and therefore you think like you need to be ready. What will I do if my brain says this? What will I say to myself if this is my thought process? What will I do if I feel that it's too hard, it's taking too long? What have I got already in my arsenal to say, to have as an affirmation, to do as an action step? Do I walk away? Do I give myself a chance to just change my energy and get out of that space? Have clear go-tos that you can utilize to counter those obstacles that you know are going to come up. Why? Because you are you. And as we start to shift those and stop repeating those, but change them to a new pattern, a new story, a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, a new way of acting, one step at a time, one day at a time, one obstacle at a time, then you will become the person who in a year may be able to then go, okay, you know, that goal that I wasn't able to complete and I decided wasn't the right time to complete it in 2026, well, I'm going to do it in 2027. The last thing that I want to say here on this is that you have to take action because no one's going to do it for you. You can have mentors and coaches like me, and just as an aside, there are only a few days left for my December offer, which has been running throughout the whole of December for £500 off. You can work with me as your mentor, as your coach, as your guide, or you can find somebody else who you feel is your person. And I really highly suggest that you do. But it's about, first of all, being aware that you cannot achieve the stuff that you want to achieve if you are going to continue doing the same stuff that you've always been doing. It's just not going to work. You cannot do it if you blame other people. You have to take 100% responsibility for yourself and work with your brain and with your body, rather than trying to push them and punish them into being better, working harder, doing more. It's not going to work and it will backfire. So when you can learn how you feel, how you function, your thoughts, where they've come from, what you need to do and say and think to be able to shift them, and how you can ensure that you continue to do that in a way that fits with your lifestyle and with what lights you up, then there is nothing except for you that is going to stop you from setting some clear intentions for 2026. And I really hope you do. But if you're not sure still where to start and you want some help, then please do reach out. Send me a message on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Just jump into my messages and just leave a comment on Instagram and I will get back to you. Or if you wish, jump onto my website. You can send me a message via my contact form. And also you can book a call with me if you want to have a chat. I'm here to help, because one thing that I do know is we humans were not designed to do things on our own. We work better as a community, with others, as a collective. Other people have got life experiences. Other people have done things that you haven't, have been where you are and have got further along. And the best thing that we can do is recognize that if we are here to be helpful to each other, then in the process, we will be helping ourselves too. And on that note, I'm going to leave you with this. I do wish you a healthy and happy new year. Whatever you do, remember, we only have one life as far as we know and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. And I will see you in 2026. Have a great New Year's Eve. Whatever you do, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye now.